Every household in our village produces tea, and the unique sheep stomach tea is especially rare and valuable. To make sheep stomach tea, you first need to split open the stomach of a two-footed sheep and place the specially packaged secret tea leaves inside the sheep's belly. After waiting for 7 days, once the sheep's wounds have healed, you send the sheep, along with the tea, out of the village to be sold. The process of making this tea is extremely challenging, and my family only does it occasionally throughout the year. With each batch of tea made, one less sheep remains. However, after the most recent batch of tea was completed, strange events unfolded in my family, and one by one, family members met a tragic end. My family is preparing to make tea again. The priceless sheep stomach tea, beautiful two-footed sheep are tightly bound, and my father, with an old tobacco pipe dangling from his mouth, takes a deep puff, revealing a mouthful of yellow teeth, smiling with wrinkles all over his face. Old shoe, your sheep looks lively. After making the tea, it will fetch a good price. Wang Lame, with a lecherous gleam in his eyes, keeps eyeing the attractive sheep, rubbing his hands incessantly. My brother kicks him away, telling him to stay far away. Wang Lame doesn't know how to make tea, and his family is extremely poor. After his first wife died, no one wanted to marry him. People in the village say he doesn't even spare livestock. Premium sheep stomach tea should not be tainted by such a person, otherwise, it won't be as valuable. I cover my eyes, huddling in the corner, trembling with fear. The sheep is bound to a long table, which has lost its original color, now a mix of black and red, all the dirt intertwining. The courtyard echoes with the pitiful cries of sheep and the laughter of people, forming a chaotic symphony that gives me a splitting headache. Hey, lazy girl, bring the knife quickly. Trembling, I bring the knife to him. As I turn away, I suddenly see the sheep looking at me with pleading eyes. I quickly run to the corner, hugging my head, afraid to look into the sheep's eyes. Amidst the laughter and cries, I hear a distinct tear as the knife cuts through the sheep's stomach. It's very bloody and terrifying. The sheep's cries become weaker, my head throbs, and finally, I collapse on the ground. A few minutes later, my brother kicks me awake, looking menacingly at me, hands still stained with blood. Lazy girl, woke up again. Believe it or not, it'll turn you into sheep stomach tea too. I scramble to my feet, looking at the table where the sheep used to be. There's still a pool of uncoagulated sheep blood, and the stench makes me nauseous. I am the youngest in the family, with 5 sisters and 1 brother. My sisters seem to have all married, but I can't remember where they went. I was born late and am thin and ugly. My mother died shortly after giving birth to me. Because I'm ugly, I can't marry outside, though I have to stay at home. Therefore, my family is often ridiculed by people in the village. My father and brother beat me when they're not happy, and they don't give me food. They always complain that I'm a burden, but we're not short of money. Since mastering the art of making sheep stomach tea, our village has become prosperous. The village chief, red-faced from drinking, often says, thanks to this sheep stomach tea, we've had good days. However, despite the high value of sheep stomach tea, we don't make it often in our village. In my family, the last time we made it was 2 years ago. That time, my head is starting to hurt again. I feel like I've forgotten something. That night, my brother brought some important looking people home. This batch of sheep stomach tea guarantees top quality. After inspecting the tea, those people never stopped smiling, looking very satisfied. When the sheep was taken away, its big eyes were filled with tears before being turned into sheep stomach tea. It was raised by me. Several people noticed me and asked my brother, "Is this your sister?" My brother looked at me with disgust and spat on the ground near me. Just a useless thing. The people looked at me with a mixture of pity and disappointment, then turned to my brother. "This tea needs to be made as soon as possible. We are in urgent need." My father and brother nodded and bowed, escorting the people out, eager to count the money. Next door, Limazi happily treated the whole village to a meal. His daughter-in-law had given birth to a lovely girl. The baby was indeed cute, with big eyes like black grapes. "Old Li, you're so lucky." Everyone congratulated him joyfully. Limazi had no grandchildren, but he didn't seem disappointed because the baby was a girl. In our village, no family favors boys over girls. As long as the baby is cute, everyone likes it. I am an exception. In Too Ugly, and even passing dogs would bark twice. Limazi came over, smiling, to toast my father. "Shoo, let your daughter go back first. Today is a happy day for my family." "But she looks..." Limazi didn't finish his words, but the meaning was clear. My father and brother's faces darkened, and they dragged me back home. As soon as we arrived home, my brother knocked me down with a blow. I cried for mercy, but he didn't stop. My father stood by, smoking, seemingly unaware. Finally, when my brother was tired, he threw the stick aside. "Useless. Go bring food to your sister-in-law." Sister-in-law, I almost forgot. I crawled up, and during the pain, carrying the food to the cellar. There is another person who is a slave in this house, my sister-in-law. She is different from me. She is very pretty. People in the village say she is the most beautiful woman in our village. She is also the one who treats me best in this family. My sister-in-law is most afraid of making tea. My brother always says her heart is too soft. She can't stand watching the sheep being gutted alive. Every time we make tea, my sister-in-law is locked in the cellar. No matter how she cries and screams, no one outside can hear. When I came to the cellar, I found my sister-in-law acting strangely. She tightly held my neck, asking urgently, "Where is the sheep? Where is it? Where is the sheep?" I looked at my sister-in-law in confusion. "Sold," I said. Her hands slowly loosened, and she sat on the ground. "The sheep is gone. The sheep is gone." Looking at her, I suddenly felt scared and quickly ran out of the cellar. As soon as I climbed up, my father kicked me, and I fell heavily to the ground. Useless girl, like a ghost, trying to scare me to death. Seeing the bottle of wine in my father's hand, I swallowed hard. Crouching in the corner, my father loves to drink. After finishing a bottle, he always wants to beat someone. I almost got beaten to death by him. I didn't mean to. Dad, I just found that sister-in-law seems wrong. A bit anxious. Spare me this time. Kneeling on the ground, I pleaded desperately. My father walked up, grabbed my hair, lifted me up, and looked at my face with a fierce grin, spitting fiercely. "How did I give birth to such an ugly thing? Just looking at you makes me nauseous." My father threw me to the ground, and my brother came over, slapping me twice on the face. "I really doubt if you are our seed. In this family, my brother is the person I fear the most. His methods of torture are much more than my father's. Brother, I am your real sister. I am Dad's daughter." My brother looked me up and down, a strange smile on his lips. "It can still be used." I don't know what he meant. I only know that he went to the cellar with my father. Soon, my sister-in-law's angry and painful cries came from the cellar. I crawled back into the woods, clutching my ears. After that day, my sister-in-law suddenly felt like a different person. She was always unkempt, her clothes were stained with all kinds of filth, and she never changed her clothes. In the past, she loved to be clean the most. She was no longer afraid of the men wandering in front of my house. When she saw them, she stared at them with a gloomy look. When the men looked away in fear, she began to laugh like crazy again. The villagers all say that my sister-in-law is crazy, but I'm not afraid of her at all. "Sister-in-law, are you in pain?" I looked at my sister-in-law's bruised and purple skin, and my eyes turned red instantly. These days, my brother has beaten her even harder. Sister-in-law didn't speak, just looked at me and smiled. That day, my father drank too much again, so he went straight to his sister-in-law's house when he got home. I wanted to stop him, and I wanted to tell him that my sister-in-law was sick. However, my father didn't listen to me at all, and kicked me far away with one kick. I wanted to help my sister-in-law. I got up and wanted to break in again, but my brother took me to the woods. My brother's eyes were terrifying, as if he was about to swallow me. "I'm a little scared, brother. Please help my sister-in-law. She is sick. Tell Dad not to hit her, okay?" I cried and begged, but my brother's eyes were even more terrifying, and the anger in his eyes seemed to be about to burn. He suddenly jumped at me and ripped my clothes apart. I screamed, trying to push him away, but he was too strong. The headache was getting more and more painful, and it seemed to be rotting inch by inch. I cried and begged him not to hit me, but my brother got even more excited. "If it weren't for an ugly guy like you, I could still keep a good-looking one at home. It's really bad luck. Why are you still alive like a useless waste?" The deep disgust in his eyes could not be resolved. My brother punched me and I felt like I was about to die. Before he left, he called Cripple Wong into my room, and that he would reward me. Lame Wong poured cold tea on me afterwards, as if to wash away the filth from my body. Not long after my brother left, my father came out of his sister-in-law's room, and went back to his room to sleep drunk. I hurriedly took the medicinal wine, and ran to my sister-in-law's house, only to see her lying cool all over, her eyes staring at the roof, empty tears streaming down her face. "Sister-in-law, don't cry. I brought you medicine. If you endure it, it won't hurt." I wanted to give my sister-in-law some medicine, but she suddenly took my hand, and gently stroked my head. "Liar, you must live well." I nodded quickly, tears streaming uncontrollably. Crazy sister-in-law, almost strangled my sister-in-law, but I don't feel scared by the sister-in-law in front of me. Sister-in-law should also live well. When I grow up, I will find a way to take my sister-in-law out of here. I cried while applying medicine to my sister-in-law. Sister-in-law is tired, and wants to sleep for a while. Seeing my sister-in-law close her eyes, I had no choice but to leave. That night, I was asleep when I was suddenly awakened by a shrill scream. "This boy seems to belong to my father." I quickly ran out of the room, and when I arrived at my father's room, I saw him carrying a club. He hit his sister-in-law fiercely, stick after stick. There was a pair of scissors stuck in my sister-in-law's stomach, and there was blood on my father's crotch. Dad, stop beating, people will die. I was about to step forward, but my brother threw my clothes into the yard. His head smashed heavily on the ground, and his consciousness became increasingly blurred. I saw the two of them, little by little, beat their sister-in-law to death. When I woke up, my sister-in-law was wrapped in a broken mat, and I crawled over with all my strength, lifting the corner of the mat. Sister-in-law had been beaten to the ground. She only had a pair of good-looking eyes that were wide open. Her eyes were filled with unwillingness and resentment. The sister-in-law was buried in a hurry, and didn't even have anything to do with her funeral. My father rarely runs outside, always drinking at home, and his eyes are getting more and more sinister. Songer, think of a way. We have to make tea at home. My father knocked the old pipe hard on the table twice. Got it? Are you going to make tea again? But I don't seem to have any sheep in my house anymore. I looked at the sheepfold in confusion, and all the sheep inside were gone. My brother is going to buy sheep, so he left home. My father's temper is even more uncertain. During these days, I was beaten by him several times, and almost choked. That day, I was knocked unconscious by him. When I woke up, I found that the house was full of people. How could such an evil thing happen? It can't be Zhang Song's wife, who came back to take revenge, right? I saw it, and I couldn't see the human form after being beaten. This Yu family is ruthless enough. Sin. I want to find a Taoist priest to do it. Before I could figure out what was going on, my father grabbed me by the neck. Did you do it? You ugly and stupid coward. I waste food to feed you, and you are looking for bad luck for me. My father looked hideous and was about to strangle me to death. The village chief hurriedly came out to stop him. He was the kindest old man in the village. Okay, don't you know what kind of temper Lyra has? Look at the injuries she was hit by you. I'm afraid she was knocked unconscious by you yesterday. I gasped for breath, but when I looked up, I inadvertently met a skull, a row of sheep heads, large and small. A scream pierced my eardrums, and I sat on the ground and crawled behind village chief. What is that? Look, does she look like she knows what happened? At least, she's a girl. Don't be beaten to death, the village chief said and helped me up from the ground. It's okay, liar. Hurry up and go to the next village and invite a Taoist priest back. I don't know what happened, so I can only do as the village chief ordered. Soon, I invited a Taoist priest back. The Taoist priest muttered in his mouth, and then frowned. Your home is entangled with a ghost. This ghost is too resentful, but fortunately, the virgin with the extreme yin body is suppressing it. Remember, if you want the house to be peaceful, this child's body cannot be broken, the old man said, glancing at my father vaguely. My father glanced at me in disgust. I know, no one wants to touch her, but after that day, there were always strange things going on in the house. The words written in blood on the door, the wool and long hair that inexplicably appeared in my father's bowl, the occasional weird cry in the yard in the middle of the night. It seemed like someone was coming back to claim their life. I was so scared that I couldn't sleep at night. At night, the firewood door rang. I heard a faint cry, and my hair stood up instantly.